we need to think about defining work into manageable chunks in order to improve the flow. And hopefully you saw that through that exercise. Anybody who's had a sandwich that's too big for your mouth knows it's impossible to eat a sandwich like that. It just splits out all over the place, right? Define things in smaller chunks that helps us improve our flow. So now that we're done talking about two things, what are they? Limit your width. Let me just go back. I'm going to circle back and talk about our experience from this course a little bit. We talked earlier about the one-week iterations. We reviewed challenges, but we didn't really talk about one-week iterations. We really viewed each week as an iteration of this course. And one of the things we did then was we reviewed at the end of each session the challenges and successes each participant was having as we went through it. We updated our boards together and we shared kind of personal experience and how to improve. What does that sound like? Retrospective, okay? This was my board at the beginning of week 1. I can tell you that this is all personal, by the way. This is not work. It was cathartic to put this stuff up. My wife was kind of on me about how much I wasn't getting done at home. Well, I wrote it all out and I was like, well, duh, you know? It didn't really win any points, by the way. But you know, there's things up here, it's crazy. It's like do laundry, it's take kids to sporting activities, sporting events. There's all sorts of stuff up here. And now that I had it all written down, I couldn't believe how much it was. I thought it was maybe half this. I had it all written down, and of course this wasn't everything, it turns out. But now I'm able to start prioritizing and organizing it. So by the end of week 1, here I had stuff done that I could show my wife, hey, look what I got done. Stuff that's in progress, stuff that's ready to work, and stuff on the list. Some of this stuff never got done. Never got finished. And that was right. I was right not to finish it. One of the other things we talked about in the course was effectiveness and how we want to be effective. Now, we all talk about productivity, right? How productive am I? Productivity is, getting a lot of work done, but not knowing necessarily whether it's the right work to do. So, if we can reduce context switching, we can be more productive, right? We can get more done. But the question is it the right stuff? Efficiency is, we're getting a lot done now. It's getting done very easily. We know how to do it. But again, if we're not working on the right things, we could be going in the wrong direction, right? Somebody shoot me if I say the word right again, by the way. Kanban helps us kind of eliminate some of the wasteful activities and focus on the right things to do. Now, that didn't count. By focusing on effectiveness, we wind up getting the right things done at the right time. And Kanban, you know what I meant, you all. With the Kanban board, we can know, what we want to work on, when we want to work on it. And let me give you just an example of that. One night I was sitting at home with that big board in front of me, and I was watching TV, and I thought, I wonder if there's anything on this board I could get done. Well, there were things on that board like, paint the bathroom or, vacuum the upstairs. It was nighttime, my kids were asleep. I wasn't going to get those things done. But I looked on there, and there was something, fold a load of laundry. While I'm watching TV, that's pretty easy to do. The context allows me to do that. By having these things kind of up on the board and knowing what context you're in, you can make those kinds of choices. Kanban helps you, again, by visualizing to be able to do that. When we focus on effectiveness, we appreciate not only what's been done, but also what has not been done. And that's a really, really important concept. How many of you celebrate what you haven't gotten done? Does anybody celebrate what they haven't gotten done? We should, because some things that you haven't gotten done didn't get done for a reason. Now, mowing the lawn may not be a great one, because it's going to be this high before long. But there are some things that you really weren't ever important and you never should have been focused on. So we talked a little bit about retrospectives. When we break down tasks, we can reveal the effort required for seeing simple tasks. We want to be able to look at our improvements. We want to be able to use what I think is a retrospective process. Now, how do you improve in Kanban? Well, what do you have right there that shows you what you're completing and not completing? This board, right? It's easy to see. It's easy to see right up on the board which tasks you're getting completed and which you aren't. And you can identify bottlenecks very easily, because something that's sitting in to do for a long period of time is a bottleneck. It's a problem. So as you look back and reflect on this on a regular basis, you want to identify those problems and determine what to do with them, how you can be more efficient. So retrospectives are a big part of that Kanban process, and you've got all the information you need right at your fingertips. So let me talk real quick about lessons that we learned, things that went bad, things that went well, things that we'd like to repeat as part of the course. One of the things we found was that carrying around a giant poster board with big sticky notes on it was not real effective. Nobody wanted me to show up to my meetings with my Kanban board. So there were a couple of approaches that you could take to that. The group took different ones. One person did like a legal-sized piece of paper, divided into columns, used little sticky notes, folded it up on the column lines, and then they put it in a folder or binder or whatever and took it with them. But what most of us did is we went online. And I use something called Kanban Flow, but Microsoft Office 365 has a tool called Planner, which you can use Trello. There's all sorts of online Kanban boards. The problem is, what's rule number one? Visualize your work. If you put it in an electronic format, what happens? You never look at it again, right? So how do you fix that problem? How we fixed it in our group was I made my Kanban board, Kanban Flow, my homepage on Google Chrome. So every time I open a browser, boom, my Kanban board. Another person set their desktop background. They made their desktop background a Kanban board and used the Sticky Notes app to put sticky notes up there so that their background on their desktop was Kanban, their laptop. Another lesson that we struggle with is the ain't nobody got time for that lesson. Because who has time to actually organize? Kanban is no magic tool. It takes discipline. You've got to go through your board on a regular basis and update it. You've got to move things from to do to done. You've got to prioritize the list in front. You've got to add new stuff to it. There's nothing magically that's going to organize your life for you. Unless your wife is really golden. Mine's not, by the way. I love her. So the last thing, the last thing I'm going to talk about as far as a lesson learned is I don't get to control my whip. How many of you guys have tasks dumped on you? Does anybody have that happens? We had a little lesson earlier in saying no. How many of you say no? Sometimes you can't. If my boss comes to me and says, this is your new number one priority, the CEO said so, you're not going to say no. Some things you cannot control, but don't let that stop you from trying to. If something comes in, so for example, if I'm at home, I've got, in my to-do, I've got laundry, I've got groceries, I've got dinner, and the bathroom toilet breaks in half and it's flooding. I'm going to have to take that on, right? I don't get control of that. So don't let those things that you can control stop you from trying to limit your whip. Sometimes you won't be successful, but most of the time you can prioritize things in a way that will make you successful. Two rules of personal Kanban. So let me talk in the time I have remaining real quick, and it is not much time. Let me talk real quick about how I apply this on our team in Lincoln. So we have a team that does a lot of ticket work and it does a lot of project work. And what we wanted to do was get control of our ticket work, because basically tickets were coming in and going immediately into somebody's queue where they had to work on. Sound familiar? Anybody else get emergency, managed tickets that come in? Got to work on this. So I took this rule of let's implement Kanban. And my original thought was let's get a board. Well, look, those tickets, they come in to change gear or remedy. And we don't control them. We can't copy and write them down on this big Kanban board. So what we did instead to visualize our work was we built a list in change gear of all the work that our team gets assigned. And we have a queue lead, a person who's responsible for prioritizing that list and collecting enough information to let us work on those tasks. We visualized it by creating a view inside of change gear, and then we set up a stand-up every day to make sure everybody was looking at it. Visualize your work. So then we started to try and limit our WIP. Well, the way we limited our WIP was to say, look, everybody pulls these tasks from this list. They're unassigned when they come in. When you have capacity, pull a task. And so the queue lead's job is just to basically prioritize, collect information, set things in a list. And then the rest of us pull tasks, pull problems, pull issues when we have time to. Once we pull them in, then they're in our queue and we get to manage them as we see. The queue lead's job is to prioritize those things so that we know which ones are the most important that we can get to. But I don't care if we have 20 high priority tasks, we only have 4 people doing tickets at a given time. We're only going to be able to work on 4 things at a time, right? So I just wanted to give you guys an example of how you can take this lesson away. Visualize your work, limit your work in progress. It doesn't have to be a fancy Kanban. In fact, I wouldn't suggest one to start out. Start at home, start by yourself, make it personal. Experiment with it, where you're not taking a lot of risk in front of your peers who are going to make fun of you. It's all out of love. You only do it because of love. That's it for me, guys. There's some links when you guys get up to this thing. Please do the, I guess not. Please give me feedback.